I'm sorry. I was wrong. Those are words we don't like to say. It would be easier for us to not say anything or to make an excuse for what we did, what was wrong, or to pass the blame to someone else that so-and-so caused me to do that sin. But that's not what we are to do as Christians. We are to go before God and we are to acknowledge our sin. We are to confess them, to tell God what we have done is wrong and to ask for his forgiveness. And that's what we do in worship during confession and absolution. In our traditional service, we use liturgy that's been used by the church for years upon years. And in the contemporary service, we do it more freestyle. But whichever style it is, we're going before God and we're acknowledging what we have done is wrong. We're not offering him excuses. We're not passing the blame. We are taking ownership of what we have done is wrong. And we ask for his forgiveness. We have this ability because Jesus gave it to his disciples to the early church, and the early church has given it to the church has given it to pastors who they have called to do this, to either forgive or to retain sins. We call this the office of the keys. We call it the office of the keys because it works like keys. The pastor can forgive a person who is repentant, who asks for forgiveness for their sins, and he can withhold forgiveness for a person who doesn't acknowledge their sins. But not only can a pastor forgive sins, but all Christians can forgive sins. We are to forgive one another. That's what Jesus tells us to do. So when do we confess our sins? Well, we do it either at the beginning of our traditional worship, or we do it right before we receive communion in our contemporary worship. For most people, they confess their sins at least once a week. Sadly, for some people, it's just a couple times a year. But Luther tells us that we should confess our sins each and every day, go before God and acknowledge what we have done is wrong. And so I challenge you in this devotion to take time today before you go to bed, go before God and confess what you have done is wrong. And know that you are forgiven because of Jesus, because of his life, his death, and his resurrection. If you'd like to know more about confession and absolution, please join us for worship this weekend here at St. Matthew. Or you can visit us on our website at www.stmats.net.